Hey, Ron Douglas here. Want to make this quick video to share some stuff that's been on my mind recently. I'm calling this, what did I call it? Insights from something with millions. I can't remember what I called it, but basically, want to give you some insights. Like, I haven't done one of these in a while because I've been involved in an acquisition. I acquired a business in the US Virgin Islands, and it's been going extremely well. I have a friend and colleague that I've known for 20 years that's introduced me to this business opportunity, said it was available, and we acquired this business. And he's been the managing partner and doing a bang up job, just crushing it for us. And I really need to make a trip out there. It's giving me anxiety because I'm a control freak and I don't have much control over what goes on out there because I'm doing it remotely. But it's also a blessing because I get to just be kind of the investor, helping out where I can, doing some marketing and trying to figure out how to grow the sales of this business. It's been a profitable business for the past 5 years, and we did just about 60,000 in sales just last month. So we just closed the books on last month, and it's going great. I can't believe the guy wanted to sell it. We were able to get it at a ridiculous price, less than two times the valuation. So we just have to stay on for keep it for 2 years, and all the money is made back. So if we don't crash the entire business in 2 years, we're doing well. But the thing about well, a few lessons today, right? Anybody could buy a business and take out a loan and have immediate revenue coming in, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say these are the exact numbers, but I'm just going to give you an example here. So say, this was a business that does about 600,000, hypothetically, 600,000 in sales, 200,000 in profit, right? And I was able to get this business for about 300,000, right? So 200,000 in profit for about 300,000. That's like what, 1.5? No, that's like 1.2 or something. It's not even, what is it, 1 point something like that. It's not even a big deal. But the thing about, so I'm a real estate investor. The difference between buying a business and there's businesses for sale all over, right? But there's risk in buying a business. The first risk is, unlike with real estate, you buy a piece of property and it's a collateralized loan and you have that property. So if things go wrong, you could sell that property, right? And it's going to hold a certain value because real estate is only going to drop a certain amount. And if the property has cash flow, that's going to, determine the value of the property because people will always pay for a good return on a property. So you could risk the risk is very small risk. Actually, the risk is just like operational risk. The tenants aren't going to pay, those type of things. But you could always, worst case, sell that property. It's going to hold its value. With buying a business, you could run that business to the ground and it'll be worth nothing, right? So whereas a property is not going to go to zero, a business can go to zero, which is why you're going to get higher returns on a business than you would on buying a piece of real estate, right? So there's certain factors. So it's a risk to reward equation, and there's certain things that factor in that you have to take an educated guess on. Well, not guess, but a calculated risk. So, for instance, with this business, can I last 2 years at the same rate? And if I grow it, that's just great. But can I last 2 years and make my money back at the same rate? I don't think we can crash this thing in 2 years. The main thing is it's in a great location. It's right on a waterfront, right? It's right in a tourist area where a lot of tourists come through, a lot of stores, a lot of shops, a lot of high-end shops. It's really the only game in town, this particular place. It's the only game in town, and the locals love it. So I get revenue from the locals coming in. I get revenue from the tourists coming in, from the cruise ships. It's U.S. Virgin Islands. It's right on the waterfront, so I get people coming in wanting to hang out on the waterfront. And I don't see it. Those things aren't going away, right? There's also always risks, like if someone gets hurt in there or shot or stabbed or violence or things like that. The other thing that's good about it, it's become known as a place where cops go. Cops love to frequent this place. It's a bar. I'm not going to say exactly what it is because I don't need everybody in my business doing reviews and stuff if they don't like me or whatever. But it's a bar. It's a cigar bar, and the thing about it is a lot of police come there, like especially this one cop. His name is Tim, and he comes. That's his spot, like his after work spot. So people know, he's there. He's pretty much doing security for us, right? He's there. He has his chair. He has his gun on him. He's in the back. He's smoking his cigars and his hookah, and he loves it there. And people know nothing's going down in there because the cops frequent that place. So it's pretty much having a security guard there, especially on busy nights. So that's amazing. So it's very little risk, but a lot of people, the other thing is operational risk in terms of having a managing partner you could depend on. If something happens to him, then I have to get more active. I have to go out there, hire a new manager, train them, learn, what he knows myself, and that's a risk. But he lives there, he loves it, he's very dependable. I don't see that happening. So you take on these risks, but it's a much higher return. You're talking about a place that's, probably going to do $200,000 over the next year, and only had to invest 300,000. And what's cool about the whole thing is also I was able to take a equity line from one of my investment properties. So one of my investment properties has gone up dramatically since I got it in 2019, since before COVID, and I was able to take just an equity line against that to pay for the purchase of this shop, right? So worst case, I could just sell that property, right? It wasn't money coming out of my own pocket, out of my own savings. It just kind of it's like paper money. It's equity, right? I could just sell that property. If this completely goes away, if we just drop the ball and it gets shut down and we make no more money, we could shut that down. I could sell this property and my family has no impact. I mean, my family wouldn't have any impact from a $300,000 deal anyway, but still, that's the gist of it. So when you think of these businesses, there's always businesses for sale. You can go to, bizbuysell.com and see different businesses for sale. And a lot of them are legit businesses. Like you could look into it. You can see what things to look for is the trend, the trend of revenue, the trend of sales. Has it increased? Has it been steady, or has it been wild fluctuations? If it's wild fluctuations, you want to know why. Why is it fluctuating? But the best thing is like a steady uptrend. If you can see that, or at least steady profits, then this business has been steady for 5 years, and the guy doesn't do much. He didn't do much marketing at all. So it's a cherished spot on the island that people go to right by the water. So it works out. It works out great. So just someone asked me like, how do I think about these deals? You learn to spot risk to reward opportunities. And we were talking about this the other day. Like, what makes me want to take on these risks? What makes me an entrepreneur? Like, is entrepreneurship something that you're born with, or is it something that you are exposed to and kind of gravitate towards, and it becomes your thing? You become an entrepreneur. I think it's a combination of both. I think it really is a combination of both. I really think I was born an entrepreneur. I think that certain things that were in me like made me want to do certain things. Like in college, I had a booth at a flea market, and I would go to the wholesale district down in Manhattan and buy shirts and clothes and different things like that. And I would sell them from my booth at the flea market. And I was 20 years old. Like, what made me do that? Nobody had to tell me to do that. Nobody suggested it. I just saw an opportunity and did it and took the risk and put a little money up front, and that was it. Like, that's what entrepreneurs do. That's my mindset. I've always been that way. If an opportunity comes up, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna go for it because first, I believe in myself. Even back then, I didn't, know much about that, but I believed I can do it. I was crazy enough to believe I can do it. And secondly, I see that there's other ways. I always knew there were other ways to make money than just working for somebody else. So that's always been my thing. But what else exposed me to these type of things? I think it was definitely a combination because I could be born an entrepreneur and never know that those opportunities existed, never seen it, and it wouldn't I wouldn't be able to tap into my entrepreneurship, my DNA that says, you're a hustler if I was never exposed to it as well. So I was both, at an early age. And I was talking to my wife about this, like I can't really uh depend on my kids or expect my kids to be like me because they didn't have the same background as me, right? They didn't have the same exposure as me. They've been kind of, intentionally sheltered. I've intentionally sheltered them from a lot of different things. Like they've never seen stuff that I've seen. Like I grew up, I'll give you some examples. I made a post about this on Facebook. um, my parents were both heroin addicts, right? And I tell this story. I've told it before. They're both heroin addicts. They were both teenagers. My mother was 19 when I was born, and my father. I never met my father. 6 weeks before I was born, he was found dead, overdosed on heroin. He was 20 years old. So they were both very young. And my mother went on to continue with drug use for many years. And my father was also a drug dealer, right? So I'm not proud of that. I never met my dad, so I don't know, but he was also a hustler. My mother was a house hacker, right? So she learned how to, she inherited a house from my grandfather, and she learned how to rent out rooms, right? So if you look at me now, I hustle legally online, selling products online. I mean, I don't do anything illegal. I'm completely above board, no criminal record or nothing like that. I do real estate. I'm a real estate investor because I saw my mom renting out rooms, and that's how she made, her money. I grew up in Hollis, Queens, in Jamaica, Queens. I was born in 1974, so I was coming up really in the 80s. In the 80s, in Jamaica, Queens, was a crack epidemic, right? So I had to learn how to be street smart, right? Growing up in that environment. So I have a unique combination of learning to be street smart, growing up in that environment. I caught on to sports early on. I played basketball my whole life. I was one of the top scorers in the history of my university. Still am top 10 in steals and points. Right, so I got really good at basketball, and it was kind of my escape from, it was my way of staying out of trouble. But it made me competitive, and it showed me the value of hard work, like hard work towards advancing myself athletically. That carried over to a lot of things. So I have all these things going for me that, seem like hardships at the time, seem like, tough times that worked out in my favor. So you're looking at a kid that's street smart, a kid that's super competitive, a kid that knows the value of hard work. Then I end up getting a job on Wall Street working for JP Morgan Chase. So I learned about investing. I learned about personal finance. They end up paying for my MBA. I learned about business management in business school. They end up paying for me to be a chartered financial analyst, more personal finance stuff. I got really proficient at that type of stuff. I'm pretty much a financial expert. I have a finance background. I'm a finance professional, but I never, I didn't. I use it for my business, but I don't teach finance other than the real estate stuff. So from there, I learned about online marketing in the early 2000s. I started in business. I started learning it in 2000. My first business was 2001. So I was learning from the pioneers of online marketing, right? The people that pioneered how to sell online. This is before Facebook, before all these different, before social media. We were on message boards sharing best practices and talking about what works and selling ebooks and selling different things. 2001, I'm learning all this stuff early, right? So all of these things, a combination of street smart, combination of knowing finance and investing, knowing marketing, learning from some of the legends of online marketing early on before they even blew up, you know, and just putting that all together, right? It just makes me what I am. Like there's no coincidence that I'm not afraid of opportunity, that I take chances, I take risks, I see opportunity, I see possibilities that most people, wouldn't have the balls to take on. I see how to make money without having a boss. And I haven't worked for anybody. I left my corporate job in 2007. So it's been, going on 2 decades now. So all these things combined, like I can't expect my kids to be like me because I'm a little crazy, probably a little bit damaged goods with all this stuff I've been through, like lawsuits, multiple lawsuits, and crazy stuff, bad partnerships, and fallouts, and shady people, and all these experiences. And I'm still here standing, and then I'm looking at them like, how come you're not a hustler? How come you're not more entrepreneurial? How come you're not this? How come you're not that? And I can't really put that on them because they haven't been through what I've been through. They grew up on Long Island and they went to nice schools and they, had birthday parties every year and been on dozens. My kids have been on probably 15 cruises. Like they've taken nice vacations and they've traveled to Europe at an early age and all this type of stuff. They lived a great life, but they still have their own unique problems and concerns. It's like that scene in the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, where they said the first iteration of the Matrix was just this fairy tale paradise land where everything was hunky dory, everybody was happy, everybody was successful, and all that stuff. And that version of the Matrix failed because people couldn't accept it. Humans need to have some type of struggle. They will find a way to have that struggle. So they just completely rejected that version of the Matrix and it failed. And they had to create another version of the Matrix. So it's kind of like the same way. It's like you can have this childhood with both your parents there and nice neighborhoods, great schools, great experiences, access to resources and money and all these different things, and still find a way to struggle, like find some things that affect you in certain ways to make you unhappy or make you like depressed or make you have anxiety or different things like that. So it's just a weird thing. And then someone like me looks at them like, what is wrong with you? But that, my kids are both doing great. They're my son got into an honors program at this college. He got a scholarship, so he's going to be out the house in college in August. My daughter probably going to law school. She's got like a 3.5 or something like that. So they're both really good kids, great kids, doing well. And I should be more. I'm learning to be more empathetic with them and to understand that they're not me. They didn't go through the same things that shaped me. So those are some of my lessons I wanted to say today. I appreciate you listening to me ramble on about this stuff. But the main thing is, I think anybody can be an entrepreneur if they're exposed to the right opportunities, the right people, seeing the right things, seeing people doing the things that they could potentially do. And so my message is just, if you haven't had the success that you want, find the people that are doing what you're doing, get around them, get exposed, learn what they're doing. Even if you have to pay to be part of their groups or pay to be in their inner circle or pay to go to their events, it's worth it because you're investing in your future and you're investing in being exposed to what's working and how to achieve your own goals. So I'll leave it at that. And good luck to you. And leave me a comment if anything I said here resonates with you. As I mentioned, this is all kind of unscripted, just freestyling, just saying what's on my mind, and hopefully you got some value from it and appreciate the rawness and the realness of all this, of these lives that I do. Take care. Have a great day.